Welcome to another episode of the 007 Files. In this episode, it is me, David Leigh. The other two disgraced themselves in the green room in the last episode, so I am joined instead by David T. Smith, who is the person that I consult with when I want to talk about Bond and booze. He is, I would say, a gin expert. He's probably a bit more than that. But what I wanted to talk about in this episode was about Kina Lillet, because he is one of the few people to have actually sampled a remaining bottle of Kina Lillet compared with Lillet Blanc, the modern product. He has also sampled the Diamonds Are Forever limited edition Macallan whiskey, which is, I can't remember how much it costs, some insane amount. I wouldn't even be able to afford a glass of that. So his breath costs money. What else do we want to talk about? And we're also going to touch on the drinks that he would like to see Bond drink in Bond 26. So welcome, David.
Thank you. What a pleasure it is to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, in fact. It's a long time since we last spoke. It was just after the Spectre premiere.
Yeah. Well, in person, yeah, it was. A long time ago.
That's right. Yeah. For Vespers. So I guess that's quite the thing to talk about tonight. But before we get into that, what's your first memory of Bond? How did you get into James Bond? Was it on television, the cinema, or was it via the bottle?
It was on the television. I was at my auntie's house, and like my dad and my uncle at the time they were doing putting some decking down or something outside, and I put the TV on, and it was a bit of The Man with the Golden Gun, and it was the bit where they'd just gone to the Bottoms Up Club, and they had the Solex and the and all that sort of stuff, and that's my very first memory. But I think maybe I was too young; it got switched off or something. So the first one I probably remember watching was On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it was around Christmas time, and I was interested in that because I was a big fan of the Avengers, and around about that time, so that's kind of. It would be about 95, 96. It was after GoldenEye had come out. There was a big 60s revival on the TV and stuff, like Thunderbirds was out, and then you had the Avengers and the Champions and all sorts of stuff. And so that was kind of, there's Dame Diana Rigg. Let's see what's going on with this.
Okay.
And I cried at the end.
That's something. It's a brave man to admit that he cried at the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So
I was a 10-year-old boy.
So do you think that that first experience of Bond shaped the way you see Bond today? Were you influenced by Lazenby or that earlier experience with Roger Moore?
I also like The Saint. And so, of course, that made a big difference. But, at that time, you had to wait. You couldn't even just buy the VHSs. They hadn't actually been properly released yet. So it was kind of getting the radio times or the TV times, looking through, it's a bank holiday. Is there going to be a James Bond on, or is it one I've not seen? Get your VHS in there so you can record it off. And gradually you kind of build up the collection to see them all, because, I was too young. Nothing was at the cinema. I'd missed most of them because it was GoldenEye. First one I saw was Tomorrow Never Dies. So bit by bit. So I didn't necessarily watch them in any order. My granddad was a big fan of Goldfinger. He really only liked watching two films. One was Goldfinger, one was the Pink Panther. That was it. There was two that he liked.
That's quite a mix. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, it's amazing. It's a different world now that we can just get access to everything. I mean, I remember, being so excited at bank holidays, just waiting for the Bond film to come on, and then VHS, and it's like, kids, you'll have to Google that if you even use Google these days. It's incredible. Right. So you've been writing about spirits and cocktails for many years. You've got the Summer Fruit Cup blog. Are you still blogging there?
Every now and then, but in spits and spots. But I like to still keep some stuff on there, and there's some interesting products that I might try that don't necessarily an outlet somewhere else. So I've been doing a little bit interesting enough, doing a little bit more vodka on there recently, just to I've got a few more interesting samples, some older stuff as well, and just somewhere to have a record of what these things taste like and what their concepts are.
And how did that whole journey begin with booze?
I think I was always interested in like the idea of potions when I was younger, and so I was interested in like non-alcohol, even like non-alcoholic cocktails as they were back then. I think like Beefeater used to do some on their like Mr. Men's Kid menu or something. Beefeater, soon to go now. Actually, that's the restaurant chain, and it kind of then as I sort of probably got to 16, was a bit more interested in some of the more the alcohol varieties and things like that, and just this idea that you can put these ingredients together and what is the result is greater than the sum of the parts. I mean, that is, it's a type of alchemy and potion making.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of where my interest came from. And my initial interest was in vodka. And then I kind of moved to gin. And then, then there was the big boom in gin. So I was kind of in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's interesting because I always think of you as the gin guy, so not the vodka guy. So okay, so you started out in vodka anyway.
Yeah, got to have good vodka if you want to make good gin.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah, I've actually tried making cold pressed gin using vodka and all the botanicals. Yeah, it's always been a disaster. It tastes bloody awful.
Less is more, and simplicity of the recipe is the key. You can do it, but
one of the reasons I tried this was because we've got a hedge on a couple of sides of our property, and I was trimming it one day, and I was thinking, this is weird. I knew the smell, but I couldn't place it. Then I thought, that's gin. I thought, this must be juniper, and so I thought, okay. I wonder if I can actually make some gin. So I looked at how to do cold pressed gin, and I try it. It tastes vaguely gin-like, but it's certainly not good enough for a cocktail.
You need for juniper. You need a high ABV of the vodka, and most vodka, as we might get into, is not a particularly high. Most of it's like 40, but the flavor of the juniper that you want is soluble in alcohol. So you need to have, like, ideally you'd be doing it like 60%, at least.
Okay.
At least 50%. Otherwise, you're just not gonna. Yeah, it'll taste a bit ginny, but a bit wishy-washy, and that is the reason why. So
Okay. Well, if I ever give it another go, and I probably won't, then I will bear that in mind.
Some people would give their left arm to have juniper grown in their garden,
Yeah, but it's like one of those things. I knew that gin was flavored with juniper, but I didn't even consider what juniper might be. I'd never thought it might come from a hedge. Yeah,
there you go.
But anyway, you have written a number of articles for the James Bond dossier over the years, and mainly on booze. You've also done some live events and things like that, which has always been good. So, is there a favorite drink that you have that Bond has had in the books or the films? And is there anything in particular in Fleming's books that hasn't made it to the films that you would like to see?
Yes, and actually that also, there's it's one answer to your questions and your question about Bond 26 as well. And that is the Americano. So that is red vermouth, Campari, and then soda water. It's the first drink that James Bond orders in Casino Royale. He has, I think it might be for yours only. He does have it in another book as well. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's From a View to a Kill.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when he's waiting in Paris. Yeah,
that would make sense. Just a lovely afternoon drink, very pleasant, very light. If you order one in a bar, be careful that you don't get served a coffee, because that happens now.
Yes.
But it would be nice. I think that would be a really lovely one to see. Other than that, the Stinger from Diamonds Are Forever is pretty good fun. I don't think that's going to be in a modern film though. And the Martini on the Rocks from from the book of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think they're a few. I'm like, actually, yeah, they're really good drinks. For those who don't know, Stinger is cognac and creme de menthe. Ideally, the white creme de menthe, because it looks nicer. The green makes it look a bit mucky. But it sounds odd, but it is like it's a very nice alternative to after dinner mint. It's kind of like having the brandy and the mint all rolled in one, and it works surprisingly well.
Yeah, it sounds good actually. Yeah, and what about the James Bond gin and tonic, where he takes a lime and squeezes the juice out of an entire lime and sticks it all in the glass with the gin and tonic, which for me makes it a completely different drink.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know some people, when they make gin tonics for people, they put the lime in immediately, like it's like a default. But yeah, you have to have a big enough glass, though. That's the thing for the James Bond. I remember making it one time. It's like, oh, well, I've put the double measure gin, squeeze the whole lime in there. I mean, I think maybe the limes that we have in Europe might be larger than they is in Jamaica. Maybe, I don't know, because they might be key limes over there, perhaps. And then you're like, oh, well, I filled it up with ice, and now there's no space for the tonic. So you need, I think the first one I ever made, I think I made it in a pint glass, because that was the only thing I had the space. Now, of course, we've got these big, the gin copa balloon style glasses, so it's a lot easier to make it. But I think you're right. It is a kind of, it's a drink in its own right, but actually pretty tasty. You need to have a gin with a little bit more welly to it, a little bit more ABV, I think, to stand up to that lime. But yeah, nice. Maybe you could argue a nod to Commander Bond's naval roots with the limes.
Because I mean, Gordon's now it's 37.5%. It's
yes,
quite a bit different to how it would have been in Fleming's day.
Yeah, I mean, I've got. You can still get it. I've got a little bottle here that I picked up in Gibraltar about a year ago, and that's still at 47.3. So sometimes you can get. It used to be known as the Traveller's Edition, 47.3. It works well. I will say this: they are not the same gin, but they are made at the same place. Tanqueray and Gordon's have the same botanicals, so it's juniper, coriander, angelica, and licorice root. And it's a lot easier to get the Tanqueray at 47.3. So if you can't get the Gordon's at 47.3, Tanqueray at 47.3 is not a bad alternative, and it's quite close.
Okay, because we, I don't know how many listeners know that I live in Spain, but we used to have the Gordon export here, which was 40% for a long time, but that's dropped to 37.5 now as well, and it's not the same thing at all.
No, it is amazing how much difference just a little bit of ABV can make. It's the same with Jack Daniels. I mean, Jack Daniels at 40% is okay, but if you can get it at like 43%, which is typically what the distillers editions are like, and they're not actually that more expensive, it's a different whiskey. It really works, and you can kind of see back in the day, as it would have been in the 50s and the 60s when it would have been at 43%. You can see, I mean, it's really popular now, but you can really see why it's really popular then, because it just clicks, But it's business, isn't it? It's profit maximization.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm jumping ahead a bit now, but with Lillet, the stuff that they used to ship to Britain, they used to bulk ship it, and it was bottled in the UK, but it wasn't shipped as Kina Lillet. It was shipped as Lillet because if it was Kina, they'd have to pay extra import duty on it.
What? Because it was classed as a aperitif as opposed to a.
I don't know. It's just the quinine content took it into a different class, so they basically didn't declare the quinine.
Oh, they didn't declare it. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it certainly in the name they didn't. I don't know if I don't know about. On the actual customs forms.
This is the big question, isn't it, when it comes to Lillet, and we might as well jump into it. And it's this idea of like, has the recipe changed? Hasn't it changed? Kina Lillet different to Lillet Blanc? Was it different depending on where you were? Why was there sometimes 2 L's and 1 L and things like that? I found, and I know that Kingsley Amis talks about this as well, but I found another reference as a guy called David Embry from 1948. He's got a book called The Fine Art of Mixing Drinks, and he talks about. Is a whole section on aperitifs and vermouth. Says he quite likes Noilly Pram, and then he says my own favourite French vermouth today is Lillet, pronounced Lillet, and he says where it's made, and he says do not confuse this with the aperitif made by the same company and originally sold under the name of Kina Lillet.
Yes.
Except for Lillet, I still regard Noilly Pram as probably the best. So I think it's two different products.
Yeah, well, I can actually identify 4 completely different products that were sold as Kina Lillet, and I've got this. I've got this book. It's in French by Olivier Londet or something like that. My French is terrible. Well, my French is actually non-existent, so I'm sorry to anybody from France or French Canada for butchering your language. And the book is called Lillet, 1862 to 1985, Le Paris d'une entreprise girondine. So this book is basically this guy went into the Lillet archives and he looked at what they have. Not all their records are intact, but many of them have been destroyed through the elements, dampness and so on. And but he looked at a huge selection of the surviving records, and basically there was the original product which started. It's not exactly clear which year, at the end of the 19th century, and it's likely it's because there was a huge crop of the local wine. So they decided to do something with that wine, and because of the fashion for quinquinas, this style of drink where it had quinine as a flavoring, they decided to do something with that, and I think it was the first white quinquina. So they had this product, which probably it evolved over time, but then they found that the British liked it, and the thing is though that the British liked it not quite so sweet as the French. The French would drink it with ice, and that's it. The Brits would mix it with gin. They would mix it 2 parts gin to 1 part of Kina Lillet. So it's a very, very wet martini. And so Lillet, they started shipping, as I said, they used to bulk ship it to the UK where it was bottled, but it was sold as Lillet. And it was Kina Lillet, but it had less sugar in it, as far as I can understand. There was another product which was sold to the French colonies, and I think that had more quinine in it. I can't remember the exact thing.
Because these also be seen as a sort of tonic wine back there, wouldn't they? There would be a sort of pseudo medicinal aspect.
Yes,
what's going on with this, right?
Yeah, actually, remind me to come back to that in just a moment. I've got something fantastic about that, and so that's 3 different recipes for Kina Lillet. By the way, the French ones and the French colonies ones were 70%. The British one was 18%. That was later sold to the States as well. But after the Second World War, they also added a dry vermouth, which was Kina Lillet as well. So a completely different drink, no quinine in it. So yeah, it's not quite straightforward because the other thing is that if you were a Brit in France and it was an area where they were used to having British clients, they would have bottles of the English style Kina Lillet, and they would serve that to the English with their gin, and they would serve the French clients the French version. So, Bond going to France and ordering a drink with 3 parts gin, 1 part vodka, half a measure of Kina Lillet. We don't even know if he was getting the French version, he was getting the English version because they were used to having French clients, or possibly the dry vermouth.
Yeah.
So it's very, very complicated. And the other thing is that, I think they dropped the Kina from the name completely in 1973, but before that, sometimes they used it and sometimes they didn't. I think maybe it was whether the Kina was in or out of fashion at the time. But right, I've got this lovely thing. It was an advert of Kina Lillet of 1900, and it says, "It's prepared with old white wines from the best vineyards of Gironde. Raised in degree for its preservation with pure Armagnac, it constitutes a very agreeable aperitif to the taste at the same time as most active tonic. It can be consumed for their greatest good by the most delicate persons, whatever their age may be." And but that ties in with something else, which is quite funny. There is a quinquina in Spain. It's Quina San Clemente, I think it is, and that was advertised until the 1970s as being a tonic good for all ages.
Yeah. Well, like your was it a Snattogen or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I had never heard the thing about the Armagnac.
Yes,
it's quite fascinating. So, just like for those that don't know, what you take the wine and then it's fortified, and depending on where you are, and this is the same with like sherry and port and things, the alcohol can be a different thing. And it looks at least at this time, they were using, I imagine, a very young or even unaged Armagnac to do the fortification. The other tricky thing that we have is we're talking about a dry vermouth.
Mm-hmm.
And that means something now. There are regulations. And yes, vermouth means it comes from wormwood, and so you'd expect a vermouth to have wormwood in it. And that's largely the reason why Lillet is this whole not a vermouth kind of thing. But I don't know that was being enforced then, or even that was actually the rule. I think you could call it many different things. It's a bit like Cresta Blanca from Diamonds Are Forever. I think there's
Diamonds Are Forever. Yes,
I've been doing some. It's work in progress, but I've been doing some research on it, and as far as I can tell, probably didn't have any wormwood in it. Like, because of the time, the issues around after they'd had like the absinthe ban and stuff like that, the likelihood is they just wouldn't have bothered to put any wormwood in it. Which might be the reason why James Bond says it's the best one he's ever tasted. Maybe he doesn't really like the bitter taste of wormwood.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would say about this Spanish Kina that I did have some of that quite recently, and I thought I'd compare the flavor of that and compare it with Lillet Blanc, and also against dry vermouth, because there's this whole thing about Kina Lillet being very bitter because of the quinine, but to me it was no more bitter than either dry vermouth or Lillet Blanc. So I have my doubts about how bitter it was, but there's somebody I know who might be able to tell me, because you're the only person I know who has ever sampled Kina Lillet. So can you Can you fill me in on
yeah,
that?
I can. Yeah, I mean, I think I was fortunate that when I started looking into this, it was before Pernod Ricard purchased Lillet, and of course, when any large company, they have they're not so interested in history. They just want to know about what we're trying to sell now. But I did speak to someone back then, and they said that basically this change, if whatever you call the change, there was two things, and it was that the older Lillet was more bitter, and it was more sweet, and that explains why when you go back to the book, back to Casino Royale, it talks about this golden color of the drink. And if you use modern Lillet, or if you use, you can make a good drink with like Noilipra, where it makes a nice drink but it doesn't look right. And I think and this is always kind of something that gets a little bit missed. And you think, the color. And I think actually it's not just a case that it was more bitter. I think it was sweeter, and I think it was a bit more syrupy. In that respect, I think that probably what we're talking about is someone using probably the aperitif. I mean, we could say, it's the vermouth that they're using or whatever, and that's fine, but it's not so exciting. If it's just another vermouth. I mean, part of this is finding an interesting drink, part of it's enjoying the history, part of it's enjoying the journey, and a lot of it is the myth and the story. And I think, so yeah. I think that's
do you know, the Lillet themselves considered it their most uninteresting product because it didn't have the quinine in it, and the only reason they made it was because they'd been asked to, I think, by the Americans.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about the vermouth here,
yes,
and so that would probably lead to it not having wormwood in it. Because of these issues these perceived issues, let's say, with the Thojone and all these kind of things. It kind of depends on the dates and stuff. But so that's kind of thing. So so I did get to try some. It's a long time ago, but it was I think it was a celebration of the 10th screening of Casino Royale.
Okay.
So the 10th anniversary of Casino Royale.
That is. But I've been trying to get this information out of you for the last 10 years. Then.
Yeah, sorry. So we went. So it was a little cinema in a hotel in London, and the main thing was that you went and saw the film. But they had a bottle of Kina Lillet that is a guy called Jake Berger from Portobello Road Gin, and he had got this for a pretty good price because the label was quite badly damaged. But the color was very good because actually a lot of when you see old bottles, they're very, very dark and they've oxidized, whereas this was a paler color. So actually, even though the label wasn't very good, the actual contents was a lot better. And because I knew Jake and I spoke to him, we tried the little Vespers of the two there, but he also let me try it on its own. And I had always had this theory because of the sweetness and the bitterness that a rough approximation of what Lillet or Kina Lillet might taste like, this sort of aperitif one, is a mix of Lillet Blanc, because you've got to keep the Lillet in there, right? I know people talk about Cocky Americano, and there's Kina Lero from Tempest Fugits in the US. Oh, very good product, actually, but you've got to have the Lillet in there somewhere, because otherwise it doesn't work. So that and what I thought was called China Martini, but it's not. It's called Kina Martini.
Okay.
And it's made by Martini, like the vermouth people.
You needed to learn a bit of Italian. CH is like a K.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, I had a bottle of this from years and years, and from when I first started getting into alcohol, because my dad used to go to Milan and he just saw it and he thought it was interesting and bought it back. So I was like, oh, I have a bottle of this at home, which is, I mean, the story of trying to find this Kina Lillet or something or even to start to replicate it, because the first time I did it with Noilipra, and then I found someone that was the Lillet. There was a place that had Lillet, and I just started dating this lady that was up in Buckinghamshire, who's now my wife. We've been married 18 years. But she went to this particular wine store in like High Wycombe or somewhere where they had Lillet. So but like you couldn't buy it online. Now you can get it in Waitrose, but you couldn't get it.
Do you know, almost my entire adult life, I'd been looking for Kina Lillet, and I'd never seen a bottle. And it wasn't until Casino Royale came out, and just before, and I realized that they were going to feature it, and there was no information on the internet. I wrote the first article about Kina Lillet, and it was based on what was in the book, and also from the Lillet website at the time, because they had a kind of brief history or a timeline of what had happened. So I kind of distilled that, and so it was
pulled it
a
together.
fairly short article.
That timeline's changed now on their website, I might add.
But one of the things about their website was that it had suppliers, and so I like, okay, where in Spain can I get it? And it's like, we're in Barcelona, and there was a shop. It's right near the top of the Ramblers, and it said you could get it there. So I went there. I went across town. I went into that shop, and I said, I'd like, a bottle of Lillet Blanc. This old woman in there, and it's a fantastic shop. It's just stacked floor to ceiling with bottles of booze. She got her son or whatever assistant out, and he went, I don't know, he got a ladder out and went to the dusty recesses at the back of the shop, and brought out this bottle, and it was like, yes, I've got it.
Finally, yeah. That was it. Yeah, I think this was, but it was just before, about 2006, it would have been something like that. And then the first time we wanted to get like Cokie Americano, I think my wife was driving down to see me. I was down in Southampton, and I think she went to the importers, it's like Rugby or somewhere, and she made it by about 5 minutes. So I got to try that as well. But
okay, yeah.
And the reason why I mentioned that is that this James Bond thing was on her birthday.
Okay.
But she knew how much it would mean to me to get this chance to try Kina Lillet. So thank you very much to Sarah, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for you. So you've got your sample there, though, right? Of the Kina Lillet that I've approximated?
Yes, I have. I was going to say, we're talking about it, but I've got some samples here.
Many thanks to Julia, who helped with sending this over. It had to go to Germany, so it could then get sent to Spain.
Yeah, no, thank you to you, and thank you, Julia.
What you've got written as Kina Lillet is a 50-50 mix of Lillet Blanc and the Kina Martini, and this is pretty close. Other than there was a little bit, because anything that has sugar that's old, it kind of oxidizes and goes a bit funky. This is pretty close to what the vintage Kina Lillet that I tried tasted like. It has that color, that thickness.
I'm just going to pour myself a glass of the Lillet Blanc to compare it, because it tastes quite a lot sweeter to me, but I need to get a baseline as well. Oh yeah, it's very different, isn't it? Because with the Lillet, I can taste orange on there, and it's a much lighter drink. This, in fact, or your mixture is much closer to the Kina, the Spanish Kina I had. Although the Spanish Kina isn't fortified, it's just red wine, quinine, and it has a ton of sugar.
Yeah, I mean. And it always seems like a bit of a simplification, but it does kind of taste like this. It's got a touch of the old what's it called, Corvona, the cough medicine. It has the texture of cough medicine.
It certainly does. Yeah,
the sweetness. It has the sweetness of a cough medicine, but also when you get like that bitterness, it's kind of a similar thing. Yeah. So you can kind of see why it wasn't so popular.
I can believe that is closer to Kina Lillet, yeah. And there's another bottle you sent to me, or is it too early for that?
No, we can have that now. I'm just getting my glass. Whilst you're getting that ready, so I'd mentioned about the colour was always one of the things that I think people get wrong. I will also mention David Wondrich, he also did some very early work on the Vesper and like the variations. I think it was for like Esquire magazine or something.
Yeah, it was Esquire.
I think it's just a nod to him. Thank you to Davey Wonder for that. So this is a pre-batched Vesper. So this is Gordon's at 47.3. It happens to have vintage 60s Smirnoff,
Oh, wow.
blue label at 50%.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the things. Higher ABV for the gin, higher ABV for the vodka because it's export. And then this mix, and then otherwise the measures are exactly the same.
Okay.
I'm got it in this little sort of goblet thing. So I've got a small one here. Because that's one of the other things. It's in a champagne goblet, but often you just see it put in a martini glass.
Well, I brought these kind of squat.
They're quite nice.
Yeah. I got them. I got 2 of those with a bottle of Absolute vodka.
I was going to say they look like Absolute glasses.
Yeah. They even say Absolute on them. It's yeah. Well, I don't know if you. Yeah, there you go.
You go. Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
Grain vodka.
So
one of the films was Absolute, wasn't it? One of the sponsors was Absolute. One of the films.
I can't remember. So
one of the Dalton ones. I know it was Finlandia for a Beautiful
Yes, that's right. So
here you go, a little ASMR for the people at home.
Well, I was still trying to open this bottle of.
Oh yeah, because yours has been wax sealed up, hasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Into the shaker. Oh, the only thing is that I didn't get any lemon.
Ah, yeah. Well, that's one of the other things. It's not a lemon twist, which is just a peel with it expressed, which is normally what you'd have with a martini, and then you might drop it in. It's this thin slice, long thin slice of lemon peel, which you kind of need to have to do it properly. You need to have like a special little tool to do it so that you can do one of those fancy long twists. So even now it's not working very well.
Well,
so yeah, it's a very particular drink with really very particular garnish, very particular ingredients, very particular recipe, and a particular glass. But there we go. There's your. It's a golden color. That's the color
It is
as
certainly.
It's described.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much like a white wine. I'd say that color. Not that the light's particularly good in here, but if I
know what I would call that. I'd call it it's a sort of like an oaky white wine, isn't it? It's that sort of color.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it works quite nicely. I mean, it's a lot more faff to go through than just making a martini.
Certainly, well, if it needs to be sent to me via Germany, absolutely.
Which of course is and I know you're aware, like there is this question mark on whether how much Fleming actually thought of the drink anyway, isn't there? Because
you were talking about this before. You have a new theory which I'd never thought of before, but I think it's a good point. So, are you going to explain to the listeners?
I will. So, this he. Basically, in this letter that Fleming writes to the Manchester Guardian, he describes it as unpalatable. So when he tried it again, the story is, at least the story is that the Vesper comes from the evening prayers. They're I think it's a colonel's house in Jamaica, and they were served. The butler came in and said Vespers are served, and this was it was like a frozen rum drink. I've actually got a recipe somewhere that suggests what it might be. We will never know, but what sort of thing it might have been. And this is retailed by Ivor Bryce, and so obviously at some point they took that name of the cocktail and then turned it into some sort of martini-esque kind of thing. But we never see it again. It's the first book. It's there, and we never see it again. And like you can have all your different theories of like, oh, it's because he's so heartbroken over Vesper, so we couldn't have it. And I love these theories of like, there's the Russian vodka and the English gin and the French, and it's like this mix of all the things. And I think there's some lovely things that you can read into it. I think it's probably not there, but anyway. But yeah, I was thinking about this just as I was just before we came on today, and I was like, it's all so particular that I do wonder if it might have just been a little bit of a joke from Fleming, and he was just like, I'll put that in there. Just like, I never really thought about it much more. Like, I'll make it really elaborate because, like, this is what it would be. Because, of course, later on in the books, And Bond is very particular about stuff, but he is specifically described as not being a gourmand. And I think like he likes what he likes, little Scarlet, whatever. But this as a drink, it's just so complicated with the very particular garnish, with the very particular glassware, and the very particular ingredients. I just kind of think like it might just be a little sly, little wink, or just a little bit. Let's call it a little bit mischief.
Okay.
Which as a writer, I always enjoy putting in my stuff. So maybe I'm just projecting.
But maybe Bond just doesn't like barman.
The barman gave him a funny look, so he's like, right, here we go then. Well, and it's such a contrast to the Americano, though. Because the Americano is such a straightforward drink. It's so easy. And then, but yeah, and I think that's the great thing about Bond is he doesn't really care. He'll have what he wants, and I think that's fair enough. I think that's part of the attractiveness of the character. As I said, he has a martini on the rocks in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
So, I quite like a martini on the rocks. It's basically a martini served on the rocks, funnily enough. But
funny that.
And I sometimes order it, and people give me a funny look. I was like, "Hey, it's good enough for James Bond."
Yes.
And they go, "Oh, was it? Oh." So, So James Bond likes his martinis all sorts of different ways, which I think is quite nice. But that does make me wonder whether or not it was. And you know what? I think this is why people love James Bond, right? Is like from the films to the books, there is stuff that you can read into it, and it's a bit of fun. And what's lovely is that you get to meet other people and you can chat about it, and you can chat about your theories and all these funny little things, and that's great. And it doesn't really matter if you're right or not. It's like having to chat down a pub,
Well, it's one of the things that's kept me doing all this Bond stuff for nearly 25 years now. Cheers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it also, in looking at the details of it, you can just understand a little bit more about how cocktails work and how martinis work. Mm. One of the other things I would say is when they're talking about measures, they're not talking about 25 or 1 ounce measures. I mean, that's just nuts for the size of any sort of cocktail. Cocktails would have been much, much smaller back then. I actually think probably a nice way to serve a Vesper would be to mix it up and then put it in a carafe in a little bucket of ice. And so then you can kind of top up your small glass, and you've kind of got like what's sometimes called a dividend. I say it's rules, actually. Rules, that's how they do their martinis. So they'll make the martini, and then they'll pour it in this little carafe in a little ice bowl, and then you have a smaller glass, and then you just pour your martini upstairs at Rules, to be clear. But so another Bond connection there.
I've never been there.
Oh well, let me know when you're over. We'll go.
Yeah.
We'll have to have a black velvet as well. Another Bond drink.
Sticking to the Vesper just for a moment more. Do you think it's a good cocktail, a great cocktail, passable cocktail, or do you think it's more important as a piece of Bond history?
I think it's inextricably linked to Bond. I see sometimes people like, "Oh, this is our twist on a Vesper," and I don't really think you can have a twist on a Vesper because it's a particular thing. It's so specific about how it was made. I think it's a very difficult thing to play around with. It's a bit like saying, "Oh, this is a black velvet, but we've not got it with Guinness." I'm like, it's a bit tricky, I think. And I think that there are some bottled Vespers out there. I'm yet to have one that was good that I didn't make myself. But like, because I taste them, I'm just like, they're not strong enough. They not have and I do feel that there is a bit of people jumping on the bandwagon because they're like, Vesper's the James Bond martini. And
well, it was a drink that you couldn't get anywhere before Casino Royale. I mean, the film.
I did. I went to see Casino Royale at the Portsmouth View in Gunwharf Keys, and after I think it was lunchtime. I think I'd gone for like a 9 o'clock showing or something. And after that, I went to it's not there anymore, the Slug and Lettuce.
Mhm.
And I got them to make me a Vesper.
Yes.
Because they had Noily Brother, and they did. And that was great. And I was like, people are gonna want more of these, so you better learn how to make it.
Yeah. Did you use Ian Fleming's instructions on how to order a martini that he wrote in a travel magazine for Americans? He said, walk into an English pub. And it says they'll probably have a cocktail shaker. Point at it. Tell them to pour in I don't know, X measures of gin. Put this measure of dry vermouth. Get them to shake it vigorously until you tell them to stop and serve it into the largest glass they've got.
I can see that. Yeah,
I think it's 8-1 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that is the thing. If the vermouth's not good, then just really pull back. I mean, I've had it before where somewhere they only had like red vermouth or some way, and I was like, well, if you've got orange bitters, just put a splash of orange bitters in there, and we'll get. If you can shake it for long. This is a vodka place actually, but you can shake it for long enough. Like we're roughly going to get there, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I think Roger Moore's. I think it's in the Guardian. He details his like preferred way of making a martini. That's very good. Worth looking that one up. That's a lovely way. Again, it's quite involved, but it's worth the effort.
Yeah. No, well, yeah. It's I think some of these drinks aren't for everyday use, but if you're going to do it every once in a while, if it's the weekends or on your birthday or whatever, then it's worthwhile learning how to do these things.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and actually, I think I mean, I know I made it, but I actually think that the Vesper dealt very well being bottled, and you still got to do the shaking with the ice, but actually it's had time to marry together. So if you do want to have a evening with some Vespers, maybe batch it up in a bottle beforehand and put it in the fridge, maybe even the freezer. Actually,
I was thinking the freezer.
Yeah, don't fill the bottle all the way up, so if it does freeze a bit, it won't break, and you're away. But probably still shake it though, because it's going to be really strong. And I think you need the aeration. You want those air bubbles in it. I
was served a Vesper at a Bond event, and I thought I took a sip of it, and it was like something wrong here. And so I sneaked over to the menu, and they had the ingredients, and it was gin, vodka, dry vermouth. And it's like, nope, that is not a Vesper. But I could tell instantly. I think it wasn't the right color. It wasn't the right taste at all. You can't substitute Lillet. Even if it's the modern version. Yeah,
that orange flavor. There is also have you ever tried the Jean de Lillet? It's like an aged version. That's like another one that kind of gets involved with like, where does that exactly sit and everything. Again, there's been a few different versions of that, but to my taste, they are more intense, but they don't, and they are darker in color, but they don't have that sweetness and that bitterness that the Kina Lillet has. But I know that that's another one that someone mentions.
I've seen it recommended as something that's closer to Kina Lillet than the standard product. It's
very hard to get hold of. I think again it was probably like 2008 was the vintage I got. So like it was very difficult to get hold of. It wasn't cheap. I mean, if you want to try it, make your own mind up. But it wouldn't be my recommendation. If you want to try and find something obscure, try and find yourself some Kina Martini. I will also say honourable mention to the extra dry gin that Sacred in London make, which I think was originally for Dukes. I always get confused because they also make an amber vermouth, which apparently is meant to be the one that's for Vespers. But to my taste and my mind and the research I've done, I personally think that the extra dry works better because it has that extra bitterness that I think that works. But that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. And I mean, moving on for Vespers, because we're 50 minutes into. We're 50 minutes into a 45-minute recording.
I knew we would be.
which is fine. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm loving doing this. I'm not quite as sober as I was when I started this, and so I just wanted to move on to the Macallan. And earlier this year, you contacted me and you said, "Oh, I'm going to this tasting for the Macallan. Do you want me to write about it?" And I said, "Yeah." I don't think you told me exactly what it was about.
We didn't know. We weren't allowed to be told.
Then I got an email from Macallan's, and they said, "Oh yeah, this event took place." And in fact, it was the one in, I think it was Las Vegas, or was it Las Vegas or
the one
LA?
that I went to was in Dukes, but I think there was another one.
Yeah, there was another one, but it had it had various Hollywood stars in attendance and so on. And
Hollywood stars at us.
And you just take your own Hollywood star along.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. And so it was like, a bunch of photos of various famous people who had never heard of, but and it was this Macallan Diamonds Are Forever 55th anniversary release. So you went to the UK version of that with fewer Hollywood stars, and you did a great write up of that with some very good photos. But what was that whiskey like?
It was great, actually, and I was told very little about it. But when I was going up on the train, I was thinking, I wonder what they might do, and I was hoping that they would do actually what they turned out that they did do, because I was thinking, well, Diamonds Are Forever, you got that scene where they're doing the briefing and they talk about the original Slayer of the sherry and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, you've got the red wine with Mr. Kidd and Mr. Wint right at the end, and it's like, oh, Bordeaux is a claret kind of thing. So you've got red wine in there, and you've got sherry, and I was like, well, you can get casks that you could put whiskey in, and this could, and so that's what they did. So it's a mix of part of the sort of the finishing with those two, and it worked, and that was what I really liked about it. Is because sometimes with some releases that are connected to maybe not just James Bond, but like any other thing that is popular, it's just tagged on. And there's nothing special about it at all. It's just same old, or something. Oh, it's a special release, but no one's thought about it. And that was what was great about not just tasting the liquid, but speaking to the guy that designed it. And it had been thought through. Like it was thought through with the level of someone that was actually a fan of the films, like someone understood it. And then they had different things with like the pictures and stuff. And then on the inside there was this script that was printed. It was very hard to read it because it's on the inside. There was still some whiskey in the bottle. So I was trying to read this.
There was still some whiskey in the bottle. Lightweight.
So I'm looking through and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, is it that bit? Is it that bit? And then I look at it and it's the bit where James Bond's with Willard White, and he's like, he could, assuming he's still using your Empire as a cover, he could be anywhere from here to here, to here to Baja. And then Willard White goes, Baja? I ain't going to Baja. And that's like the last bit on the thing. I was like, yes. Probably my favorite quote from the film.
Brilliant. Yeah. So, how much is it a bottle? Do you remember?
Oh, I'd have to go look at your website.
Yeah. I need to.
I can't recall, actually.
It's a lot. It's an awful lot. It's like you need to price it by the sip.
Yeah, I seem to think that I was like, if it kind of depends on like what. Because expensive depends on your means, right? So, I mean, there's a little bit of that. But I do remember, we were discussing it afterwards, and I do remember thinking, because some people do spend thousands of pounds on stuff and bottles of wine and stuff like that. And I was like, if it was if you really like the film, or like it, or maybe it was your 55th birthday or something like that, there was part of me that kind of felt like maybe I could see it, you know. And it's difficult because like some people would bulk at paying £100 on a bottle of whiskey, you know. So that's the kind of thing. I think it's. I've just looked it up. So it's £600.
Oh, it's not as expensive as I remembered it.
No. So, when you think some other ones have been like, and even like some of the previous ones that they've done have been really, really expensive. So, I think if you had like a special birthday or something like that, I could see, if you really like whiskey and that's your kind of thing. But I think what I really liked about it was that it was different. So you could see why you would be paying that sort of price, So
have you got a bottle around?
No. I had what I had. I got we got I think we got 2 glasses when we were there. We had a cocktail. Started off with a nice cocktail with Norm Macallan, and we had a nice sip when we were there. Got my tasting notes, and then we had some martinis. I think so. We were we were at Duke's, and the bit that we went to is like they've just redone the back bar, so that was really nice. It's like their new sort of whiskey lounge thing, which is separate to where all the martinis and stuff are done. But that was great fun, and that was actually with 2 colleagues of mine, Neil Ridley and Millie Milliken, who an exclusive for you.
Oh,
there we go. We probably it'll be about the autumn. It's going to launch. We are doing a new podcast on James Bond drinks called Red Wine with Fish. So looking at both books and films, quite a deep dive. There's plenty of interesting tidbits and some interesting things that we've tasted, and a few more impressions from me. So
that sounds like it's going to be essential listening for me at least, and I think there'll be plenty of people interested in that. So I will be listening out for that, and give me a shout when it launches, and I'll put it on the website as well.
Thank you. And it's I think we've got an Instagram up, which is Red Wine with Fish Podcast.
Okay,
so I think that's the way that people can, and then we'll update when it is. But it should be around about autumn time. So we've recorded most of the episodes already. So
okay, go. Brilliant. Look forward to that, David. Okay, just before I let you go, we've seen everything from Heineken to Macallan to dirty vodka martinis in the recent films. Are there any more drinks from Fleming's novels that you'd particularly like to see return in Bond 26?
Oh, I think, do you know what would be fun is the Alexander. I think it's a vodka Alexander specifically, isn't it? Or even if which is from, I want to say Risico. It's Christatos is drinking it.
Yeah.
And it's how Bond knows who his contact is. So even if it's not that drink, I like the idea of there being a particular drink. Look for the person with the porn star martini. Couldn't be like an Aperol Spritz because there'd be too many people having them. But I'd like the idea of like that's the way that Bond would see who his contact was. I think something that could be a fun drink to have that's not in the books, but I could maybe see it fitting in. Is there's a drink called a Batanga?
Okay,
it's basically a Cuba Libre. So Cuba Libre is rum, Coke, and lime juice, and then a Batanga is you make it with like a Reposado tequila instead. And I think that could be a pretty cool sort of thing. I mean, I don't know how you'd fit it in, and it'd have to be in the right place. But I just think that, maybe that's the sort of drink that Bond could drink. We had Paloma drinking, and we could have a Paloma, of course. We had Paloma drinking was it a cherry cola or something like that? I think,
that's right. She was drinking cherry cola, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's not too far away from that.
Yeah. Do you know one drink I think should return in Bond 26? Yuck.
Food. Well, there we go. I can't say too much, but in Red Wine with Fish, we at least tracked down the closest thing we could do.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Yeah, because as far as I can work it out, it was a completely fictional, possibly rice wine, but I don't know. I'll wait and listen to your episode. Anyway, David, thank you so much for joining me today. I think this is been an awesome episode, although it may be slightly coloured by the fact that I have a Vesper and a few Kina Lillets inside me. And thank you for coming on.
That's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for all the support over the years. I appreciate it. And all you do for the James Bond community.
Well, thank you for everything you've done for the website as well, because, that's not nothing either. So we look forward to your new podcast. And, the 007 files will return probably next time with Bill and Javid.